Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blank and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Well, hello. Greetings, people of Earth and the known universe. You're listening to Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. I am your host, Keith, and I can't wait to talk to you about some TV. One of my favorite subjects. Yeah, TV. Most definitely. So the shows we'll be talking about today will be Timeless, Lucifer, Black Lightning, and Bosch. So let's get to it. Timeless. Timeless is a television show on NBC. It's an American science fiction travel drama series. It debuted in 2016, but it took a while for us to get to the second season, but we finally did. It follows the adventures of a history professor, Lucy Preston, played by Abigail Spencer, and scientist Rufus Carlin, played by Malcolm Barrett, and a soldier, Wyatt Logan, played by Matt Lanter, as they attempt to stop a mysterious organization called Rittenhouse from changing the course of American history through time travel. So this series was created by Sean Ryan and Eric Kripke. Eric Kripke is also of Supernatural fame from the TV series Supernatural on the CW. So, and this also stars Goran Visnick, Sakina Jaffrey, and Patterson Joseph, and Claudia Dumont. So, and the executive producers of this show are John Davis and John Fox of The Blacklist. So, yeah, the Timeless kind of went through some changes for a second. NBC had canceled this series after one season, May of last year, May 10th. And then, like 3 days later, after negotiations with Sony Pictures Television, they renewed it for 10 more episodes for season 2. And that started last month in March. So that is the brief background of Timeless. I stumbled on this show, so I'm glad I did. It's a pretty cool show. So yeah, so as I said before, 3 people travel throughout time trying to make sure their history doesn't get messed up, because this secret organization Rittenhouse is trying to change the course of American history to fit to their own agenda. So yeah, so you have a soldier, a historian, and a scientist. So 3 people from 3 different worlds. So yeah, it's really interesting to see how the chemistry between the 3 of them and what goes on throughout history and how they have to deal with the history, because Rufus is an African American male who plays the scientist, and then the historian Lucy Preston, she's so Lucy, her and Rufus, it's interesting what happens when they go back in history in America due to the times. So there's certain times where it's tough for Lucy to be heard, because she's this woman in a certain historical period before the women's suffragette movement happened, and then Rufus being an African American male, he goes back like during the Civil War times. That's not a good time for him to be there. So, I mean, there's some dark humor involved in this show, but I really like it. The most recent episode was called The Kennedy Curse. And basically what happened, so you find out in the first season of Timeless that Wyatt, the soldier who's very stoic, you find out that he had a wife who got killed. And he loved her very much. And throughout the first season, he tried to go back in time to prevent her death. Because he always felt guilty that he wasn't able to stop her from dying. So he tries to go back in time to stop her from dying, from getting killed, and he just fails. It just doesn't happen. So by the time you get to the second season now, so now what I didn't talk about, like in the first season of Timeless, there's this character, and let me get down to the cast so I can tell you. His name is Flynn, and he comes across like he's the bad guy because he's trying to go back in time to change history. So Wyatt, Lucy, and Rufus think that he's trying to change history for his own personal benefit because he's the evil bad guy. Well, you find out throughout the first season, Flynn tells Lucy, I go back in history because of you. You're the one who meets up with me. You give me this book on Rittenhouse. And you find out that Flynn has Flynn's family was basically killed by Rittenhouse. So he's trying to do whatever he can to stop them from hurting other people. But Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus don't necessarily see him that way. All they see is a guy who's trying to mess up history and make things worse, or so they think, so they believe. By the end of the first season, Lucy finds out. Lucy has a sister, and her mom and her sister are alive, and Lucy's father, has been deceased. So Lucy finds out through a chain of events that the person she thought was her father wasn't, and that a guy who's a major figure in Rittenhouse is her father. So she wasn't expecting that twist of events. That a guy who's helping to run the secret organization, who's basically like a bad organization, is her dad. This bad guy's her father. So Lucy thinks that her mom is not aware of all this. So by the time the first season ends, she goes and tells, and she's been going on different assignments trying to help correct history and do things, in history. When she comes back to see her mom, she finds out that her sister has been erased from history. Her half sister has been erased from history. And she goes to talk to her mom about Rittenhouse, and her mom's like, I'm a part of Rittenhouse. Dude. I already know about them. So that blows Lucy's mind. So, and Wyatt's been kind of heartbroken because, like I said, he could never save his wife. So he's been the soldier who's just been working alone until he met Rufus and Lucy. So catching up to, and there's so much more to this show too, but getting current now with the new second season, episode 5, The Kennedy Curse. By this time, by the end of the first season, they capture Flynn, and they're holding him, and they find out that all the stuff that he was talking about was true. So, Rufus and Wyatt still don't really like him, but they realize that they know the real enemy was Rittenhouse and not him. So Rittenhouse begins to step up their plans. When season 2 opens, Lucy is with her mom, and Wyatt and Rufus think that she might be dead. They don't know if she's alive or not, so they don't know that she's been living and working with her mom and going back in history and being on assignment with her mom. And Lucy doesn't know that Rufus and Wyatt are still alive. So she's almost kind of given up because, she feels like the bad guys have won and her mom is one of the bad guys. Or so she thinks. She's not really sure. So in the beginning of season 2, Lucy and her mom wind up going back in history to save a soldier. And you find out this is a soldier from like World War II. And you find out towards the end of the first episode that the soldier that Lucy's mom saved is actually her great grandfather, who is basically like the founder of Rittenhouse. So she brings him back to the future so he can set up shop. And when all that's going down, Lucy finds out that Rufus and Wyatt are alive because they go looking for her, and she has to make a choice, either her mother or Wyatt and Rufus. So she chooses Wyatt and Rufus, and she tries to get her mom to come with her, but her mom is so enthralled, or so intertangled and intertwined with Rittenhouse, she can't get out of it. And she's trying to protect Lucy because one of their other colleagues who came with her is very trigger happy, and she would love nothing more than to remove Lucy from the equation. And Lucy's mom is just trying to, keep her safe and keep her close. So with the new episode, The Kennedy Curse, Flynn winds up working with them again. Flynn winds up working with Wyatt, Lucy, and Rufus. They need his help because he has more extensive knowledge about what the Rittenhouse is doing. And they know they can't get around it. They know that he's the only one who can help them figure out what their next game plan is. So the episode opens up with Boston, Massachusetts, I believe, and Harvard, and you see these two guys walking down the street, and it's 1934. And someone on the school campus tells this young guy named Jack, you're wanted in this, in your guidance counselor's office. He's like, okay, so I'll go. Jack goes to the guidance counselor's office, and after he opens the door, Flynn pops through the door, and he shoots the guidance counselor who has a gun, who was about to shoot Jack. You find out in this episode, he was going to shoot a young Jack Kennedy so he can make sure that he doesn't become president of the United States. Because if Jack Kennedy becomes president of the United States, that goes against Rittenhouse and their plans. They want to be able to put somebody in office that they can control. So the next scene skips basically the time ship. There's two time ships or time machines. Rittenhouse has the newer version, and Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus have the older prototype version. So so once Flynn shoots the guidance counselor who's trying to kill Jack Kennedy, the next thing jumps to the time machine popping up at the headquarters that Rufus, Wyatt, and Lucy have with Flynn and some other people, government officials. And Flynn is not there, but Rufus, Wyatt come out, and they come out with young Jack Kennedy. So, and basically, they say, well, we had to leave Flynn behind because we had to get Kennedy out, JFK out of there because they were trying to kill him. So, but we'll go back for him. So, and at this time, JFK was knocked out, or they gave him a sedative or something while he was in the time machine. So when he wakes up in this bunker looking at these people he doesn't know. And Lucy says, hey, first of all, she's in shock that they brought JFK to the lair. And she's like, when he sees her, he's like, who are you guys? And she's like, oh, we work for your dad. Your dad sent us to look after you, to watch after you. And JFK, young Jack is like, why was my teacher trying to kill me? What's going on? He's like, well, just get some rest and we'll get you something to eat. And, your dad will be here to pick you up soon. They basically lie to him just to appease him. So they go and they meet. And they're like, well, we have to keep him safe and we have to make sure that they don't get to him. We can't just bring him back to 1934 if Rittenhouse is still looking for him and trying to shoot him. So it gets really good. So basically what happens, young JFK escapes the bunker. He winds up going to a gas station asking for a payphone, and the guy behind the counter is like, what are you talking about? He's all iPhoned out. He's got this smartphone. He's like, payphone? That's in the library. It's funny hearing someone say that. It's funny thinking that payphones are obsolete now and they're relics in the part of history. But yeah, they are. So this young girl comes in with her entourage, and they see him, and they're getting some stuff because they're about to head to a party. And Jack sees the young lady, and he just starts talking to her. And he's like, Jack tries to tell the guy at the counter, hey, these people kidnapped me. I don't know who they are, and I'm trying to get a hold of my father, and I need help. And the guy behind the counter is like, you're tripping. Why you look, and why you dressed like that? He goes, oh, there's nothing wrong with the way I'm dressed, because Jack has on his, it's like cardigan sweater, suit jacket, and a shirt and tie. Looks very, Harvard man. So basically, the young lady and her entourage take Jack into their home. They take him to a party, and when Jack is in the car driving with them, he's in the back seat. Jack Kennedy, he's tripping out because the young lady is Asian. There's a white female, and I believe that there's a black male, and they're all in the same car together. So, so this Jack Kennedy from 1934 is not used to seeing that because during his time, there's segregation. The Civil Rights Act won't happen until the 60s. So, when he's president. So he's just tripping on the fact that, wow, you guys are all friends and you all drive together. And they're like, yeah. So he doesn't know yet that it's 2018. He gets to the party, and he's just looking around. He hears the music, and he's just in awe because he's just not used to this type of environment. Oh, but actually, I'm sorry. Before he gets to the party, he actually gets sick. His stomach starts to hurt. So they take him to a hospital, and you find out that JFK, throughout his life, he had lots of illnesses that they would not, that they kept pretty close to the vest and hidden when he was running for president. So, because they always, of course, you want the president to always appear to be robust and very healthy. We'll talk some more about Timeless after this break.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Jordan and Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know.
Jordan
and Keith.
From pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
And we are back. You're listening to Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast. I'm your host, Keith. We're talking about the TV series Timeless, a science fiction show on NBC. So as I was stating before, in regards to JFK, so, he got sick, his stomach was hurting, so his newfound friends take him to the hospital, and that's where, Lucy and Rufus and Wyatt track him down, but as they get there, a Rittenhouse agent is also there looking to kill him, so he escapes basically, and then he goes to a party. So he left before the agent got there. He left the hospital. So he goes to the party with his newfound friends, JFK, and he's walking around and he sees the party and sees all these different people from all different, ethnicities just hanging out, having a good time. So once again, like I said, so in 1934, this young JFK is not used to seeing different ethnicities just mingle together like it's normal. So, so the episode was really cool because there was definitely a lot of social commentary within the episode. So he goes upstairs and he sees his lady friend who befriended him. I forget her name, but she looks at her iPad and she because he tells her that he's John F. Kennedy, and she doesn't believe him, of course, because it sounds kind of crazy, right? So she pulls up the picture of him, and she sees the picture of him in the iPad. She was like, yo, you look just, she goes, you really do look just like him. And he's like who? And then she shows him, the tablet, and he's like, that's me. And he's like, where'd you get that picture from? And then he keeps on reading. He goes, I was president? And she's like, yeah. And then he's like, what about my brother? That was supposed to be my brother Joseph. He's the good one. He's my older brother. He's the smart one. It was supposed to be him. He keeps on reading the iPad. So mind you, this young JFK from the past is looking at his history from the future. So, he finds out that Joseph got killed in an airplane crash. And then he finds out that Bobby got shot, and he finds out that he got shot. So, of course, that's a lot to take for a young guy going to Harvard. 1934, you find out that you're going to be president one day and that you're going to get assassinated. And that's when, his friend, she mentions the Kennedy curse that, they all die by, they never get to live long. And so, he's just kind of spiraling now that he hears all this. He's just upset. And she's like, it really is you, isn't it? And he's like, yeah. So at that point, Wyatt and Lucy and Rufus, they find him at the party, and Wyatt tries to get him to come with him. And that's when Rittenhouse agent shows up and she starts shooting. So then the party gets basically canceled, and Wyatt's telling everybody just to get down on the floor, duck down. And they're going back and forth, and then they eventually they save JFK. They take him back to the lair, and before he leaves the party, the lady who befriended him with her college friends, she's like, everything you told me was really true? And he's like, yeah. So, and she's like, well, don't worry, your secret's safe with me. And he asked her before he leaves, he goes, well, was I a good president? Well, actually, no, he doesn't ask her that. So I'm skipping a part. So the end of the episode, basically, with the Canadian curse, they bring JFK back to their lair, and he talks to them, and he's like, I know what happens. He goes, I know my brothers die. I know I die. And he's ready to go. He goes, take me home. And before he steps into the time machine, he turns around and he says, was I a good president? And Lucy looks at him as the historian. She says, you are one of the best. So he smiles. He goes into the time machine, and they take him back. But before they take him back, Rufus looks at him because the cool thing about this show is they realize they're not supposed to change time because they don't know what the consequences will be. But sometimes time changes anyway on them. So even if they don't try. So Rufus says to him, he says, whatever you do on November 22nd, don't go to Dallas. So when Rufus and Wyatt come back after dropping him off, and mind you, they got Flynn back as well too. You find out, she's like, oh, JFK died. She goes, well, I told him not to go to Dallas. He goes, oh, he got killed in Austin, Texas. So, and you find out that he was meant to, to be assassinated anyway, according to the story. So I'm just sticking with the story. But it was a good episode. Also, other things in the episode were basically like Wyatt. So Rittenhouse, in order to try to throw Wyatt, Lucy, and Rufus off their track, Rittenhouse went back in time, and they managed to bring Wyatt's wife back to life. So that's a monkey wrench that gets thrown into the mix. And that happens just as Wyatt and Lucy start getting close with each other. So by the time this episode happens, Wyatt has to show his wife, Sarah, what he does. She thought that he was just doing these covert military missions and just being a jerk and not returning her phone calls for 2 months. And, Lucy had to explain to her, no, you were dead. He mourned you. And he went back in time to try to bring you back to life. So there's a whole love triangle going on with that. And then Rufus has a girlfriend who is one of the engineers there. And she is starting to have premonitions of the future that are tied directly to Rufus. So the show is really good. I like it a lot. It's every time they go back in history, it's always very enlightening. There was a previous episode that had to do with the Salem witch trials. And, you find out throughout the episode that they were going to put Benjamin Franklin's mother on trial as a witch, and if that would happen, he never would be born, and that would alter the course of American history. So it's all really cool. I enjoy the show. It was a pleasant surprise because, not everybody can do time machine stuff right, So speaking as a Doctor Who fan, just saying. So, yeah, but it's a good show. I definitely recommend you guys check it out. Timeless on NBC. So, yeah, you won't be disappointed. And I'm looking forward to seeing where the rest of the season goes, the twists and turns, especially now that Wyatt's wife knows what he does, and now she's down there, at the headquarters with them. It's all going to be really interesting. And now that, and Lucy's mom has been told that she's no longer dealing with Lucy from Rittenhouse, and that Rittenhouse will take care of her. So basically, Lucy's great-great-grandfather, who she doesn't even know, is looking to have her eliminated because she is thwarting his plans. It's all really kind of dark and twisted in that sense. So, but it's good though. It's really good. So another TV show that I want to talk about is Lucifer. Let's talk about Lucifer. So I'm sure it's controversial for some people. It's a television show on Fox. And it's a comedy for the most part. I mean, kind of the comedy, dramedy, but I'd say more so comedy. So Tom Ellis plays Lucifer Morningstar. And this TV show is actually based off of the Vertigo / DC comic book. So Lucifer is basically the anti-hero, /hero. But yeah, it's a fantasy police procedural drama television / comedy series. It was developed by Tom Capinos. And this premiered 2 years ago. Yeah. January 25th, 2016. So the character was created by Neil Gaiman and Sam Keith and Mike Dringenberg. So, and it's from the book series called The Sandman. So, okay. And basically, Lucifer was the spinoff. That book, his book series was the spinoff off of The Sandman. So basically, Lucifer Morningstar, who is Lucifer, the devil, he decides that he no longer wants to rule hell. He's just over it. So he takes a permanent vacation in LA. And you know what comes next. He winds up owning and running a nightclub called Lux. And it's one of the hottest nightclubs in town. And Lucifer likes to play piano from time to time and sing. But yeah, I mean, he's the ultimate bad boy. He always has lots of women and sometimes men, that he's romantically involved with. That's just how he is. And so basically what happens, once, he's left hell and he's on his permanent vacation and he's like, I'm not going back. A murder happens at his nightclub. So, and then what happens is that this is how he winds up meeting Chloe Decker, who's a police detective, who's also a former B-movie actress, who he recognized when he saw the movie that she was in. This is kind of really interesting. He winds up helping her solve a case, and Lauren German plays Detective Chloe Decker. So, well, actually, let me give you more of a description of Lucifer, the character itself, and how the TV show goes. So, one of the things that Lucifer can do while he's on Earth is that he can look you in the eye and ask you what do you most desire, and when he does that, and you look in his eye, you tell him. You can't hold back. You just tell him whatever it is. And often, sometimes people's desires on the show can be very humorous, sometimes very dark, and sometimes very funny, depending on who that person is that he's talking to. So, but yes, he's the fallen angel. He's immortal. He's got superhuman strength and invulnerability. So you can shoot him, but you're not gonna, those bullets are just gonna bounce off. He's not gonna die from that. So, and like I said, he's very sexual in nature. He considers himself to be irresistible to most people. So basically, this guy is, he's very narcissistic, but he appears to be very honest to a fault. So, and what's interesting and cool about this show is that, he refers to God as dad, and he's always upset with dad. He's got dad issues. He feels like his father's always trying to control him. So sometimes it comes across like he's just kind of whining. So when the trailers for the show on Fox came out, I was like, I had to watch the first episode just out of curiosity, because I knew, Fox is really fascinating. They've been very pioneering with the TV shows that they have supported. So I can say that much about Fox, the entertainment company. And I realized that this type of TV show would not have been on television in America 20 years ago. It wasn't going to happen. And then you consider that Fox News is considered a very conservative news organization. It's just very fascinating how, that is still the case for the news company, but the entertainment company is a little bit different. So like I said, I had to watch the first episode because I was just like, this wouldn't happen 20 years ago. So how times have changed. And then, watching the show, and then I found out later, this is based off a comic book. And, I like to read comic books. So I'm like, well, I'm going to have to actually read those when I get a chance to compare it to the TV show. But as I was saying, Lucifer always refers to God as dad. And then he's always agitated and angry because he feels like his dad is always trying to control him. So he strikes up a friendship with Chloe Decker, the police detective, who's also a single mom and a divorced mom who works with her ex. So Lauren German, she plays Chloe, as I said before, and she's great on the show. Great chemistry with Tom Ellis, Lucifer Morningstar. So Lucifer tells Chloe that he's Lucifer, and she doesn't believe him. She just thinks he's just a quack who likes that name, but he's been a great consultant to work with in regards to her, solving cases with her. So, And, throughout the show, and when Lucifer gets mad at people or so-called villains, a lot of times he'll show his true face to them and they freak out when they see it. But when he tried to show Chloe his face, it wouldn't, she couldn't see it. She just saw his face. So through a chain of events, Lucifer finds out basically that, Chloe Decker has become like his soft spot. So, and her ex, Chloe's ex, who's also a police detective, her ex-husband, played by Kevin Alejandro. He plays Dan Espinoza. They have a daughter, and she's adorable. And so all that's in play with the series. So, Chloe's this, single divorced mom who's a good police officer, very honest, very sincere. And I'll tell you some more about Lucifer after this break.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be, visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast. I'm your host, Keith. We're just talking about the TV series Lucifer. And I want to mention, Chloe Decker's daughter's played by Scarlett Estevez. She plays Trixie. Adorable, cute kid. Great sense of humor, lots of fun. So the whole cast is just great. So Lucifer has a brother named Amenadiel, and he looks nothing like Lucifer. He's a 6 foot something tall, dark skinned black man. But they're brothers. They're angels and they're brothers, and they have the same dad and the same mom. So I like that whole concept when you see all that on the show. So it's really cool, that multicultural aspect of what's going on. But so the episode in question that I just saw is The Angel of San Bernardino. So like I said before, Lucifer, feels like his father's always trying to control him. So he's upset about that. He doesn't like that. You find out at the beginning of this new season, Lucifer, when Lucifer came to LA and opened up his club and just started living the good life, so he saw fit and just not even thinking about hell anymore, he brought one of his close companions, a demon named Mazikeen, nicknamed Maze. So she's working at the club as a bartender, but she's also a really cool and very effective bounty hunter. You find out later throughout the show. And so Amenadiel comes back, as an angel. As an angel, he has the power of stopping time. So he comes back and he's like, "You need to go back to hell, brother." And Lucifer's like, "Nah, I'm not going." He's like, "Nah, I like it just where I'm at." So that goes back and forth. So when Lucifer moved to LA as a form of defiance against Dad, aka God, he cut off his wings and he put them like in this glass casing. And eventually someone had kidnapped his wings. He found them, and then eventually, instead of putting them back on or keeping them, he burned them. So Lucifer finds out through a chain of events, and towards the end of the first season, when he meets Chloe's mom, who's played by Rebecca De Mornay. So, and by the way, we know we love her, so she's a great actress. It's good to see her working. Her name on this show is Penelope Decker, yeah, who was an actress herself on the show. So she played a Hollywood actress, who raise Chloe. So you find out somehow she runs across Amenadiel, Lucifer's brother. And she's like, you look familiar. And you find out later after that exchange they have at this bar restaurant that there's a picture of Amenadiel, who's younger, meeting with Chloe's mom. You find out that, God had sent Amenadiel to make sure that Rebecca's mom could conceive. That Chloe Decker's mom, Penelope, could conceive, because her and her husband are having a hard time being able to conceive a child. So basically, Lucifer finds out that, Chloe was put in this direction on purpose from his dad. So, of course, he gets a little resentful at first and tries to avoid her, knowing that, because he's just like, this is dad trying to manipulate me and her. So it's just really interesting to see, out of all the different incantations, that's the wrong word to use, out of all of the different portrayals, yes, that we've had of Satan, of Lucifer on television and in film, this one is perhaps the most unique one, because it's comedic, it's interesting, and it just the show deals with relationships and how people treat each other. So, and it's funny. It's just like, Lucifer Morningstar seems to he comes across as the rebellious child who knows what right is but doesn't want to do right if you call him on it. But if you don't call him on it, he might do the right thing, but he doesn't want to admit to it, while still being very heavily narcissistic. So with this episode, with season 2, what happens? Lucifer gets his wings back and he doesn't know why or how. So he's upset about that. And a new lieutenant comes to town, who's going to be Chloe's boss. And the lieutenant is played by Tom Welling of Smallville Superman fame. Yeah, we hadn't seen him in a while, so it's really cool. He plays Lieutenant Marcus Pierce. And basically, he's after this killer called the Sinner Man. So that eventually gets resolved. Lucifer knows there's something about Tom Welling. He can't put his finger on it, but he knows there's something special about this guy. And his character comes across as very brisk, while at the police force, while at the police station. And he's very straightforward and direct and to the point. He doesn't really socialize too much, doesn't smile too much. So, but eventually, throughout a few episodes, Lucifer figures out, and he does this because he invites Tom Welling to come over to his place, and to Lux, the club that Lucifer owns and runs. No one's there but Lieutenant Marcus Pierce and Lucifer, and Lucifer shoots him, and he goes, you're Cain, aren't you? That mark on your arm, that's who you are. So, he shoots him, and then eventually, Cain wakes up. I think that was probably the end of the episode. The next episode, Cain wakes up. You see that the scene opens up with Cain waking up off the floor. He's like, that hurt. He goes, yeah, I'm Cain. I can't die, and that's all I want to do is just die. I've been cursed to roam this earth forever, and I just want to die. I've lost loved ones, and I just don't want to be here anymore. So Lucifer's like, well, okay, I'll see if I can. Let me see what I can do to help you with that. So Lucifer tries to help him in different ways to kill him. It doesn't work. So eventually, Cain, aka Tom Welling. So no one knows that he's Cain with the exception of Amenadiel. He talks about it because you find out that Amenadiel, Lucifer's brother, is the one who put the mark on Cain per God's orders, his father's orders. So basically, you find out that Cain is still trying to die and nothing works. So he decides he wants to start courting Chloe because he sees that Chloe has an attraction to him, and he kind of blew it off. But he decides to, start dating her. Lucifer's jealous of that. This new episode, the Angel of San Bernardino, someone gets killed, and Lucifer and Chloe are trying to figure out who killed this person. And the episode opens up with a woman overhearing some people in her home who shouldn't be there. Someone gets shot, and there was a burglar in her house, and the burglar was going to shoot her, but then the burglar got stopped, and the woman saw like a silhouette of an angel in the doorway. So when she speaks to the police, she tells them that an angel saved her. So, King asked Lucifer in private, there's one of your brothers in town? And he's like, not to my knowledge, no. So then later on, Lucifer's led to believe that he might be the angel saving people, because he goes to sleep. Well, when he gets home, he finds this little statuette, this angel statue of Gabriel. So, the same statue that's missing from the lady's home. She said the angel left, and they must have took the statue with him, the angel of Gabriel. So when Lucifer sees this at home, he's just like, wow, this can't be me. But just in case it is, I'm going to chain myself to my bed and go to sleep. So he does that because he wants to make sure that it's not him. He chains himself to his bed. When he wakes up the next morning, the chain has been ripped, and he's got like black smoke and dirt all over him. Amenadiel wakes him up, and he's like, it must be you, Lucy. Amenadiel calls his brother Lucy. That's his nickname for Lucifer. I know. So Lucifer's upset, and he's like, well, I can't go to sleep. I can't be out here, showing people my identity and saving people, or putting people at risk. So he decides he doesn't want to sleep for a while because he's afraid of what will happen if he does, because he can't control himself. And he thinks his father's manipulating him. So he goes on a bender. He starts doing all kinds of drugs and partying and dancing and he's just sleep deprived. So when he shows up to work with Chloe, she can tell something's wrong with him, and he looks like, death at your front door, whatever that looks like. And he tells her that he had been binge watching the TV show Bones, and that he compared the two of them to he and Chloe. And then while all this is happening, Chloe has gotten closer to Cain's character, Tom Welling, and Lucifer is very jealous about it, but he doesn't want to say anything out of pride. So, and you find out that Cain has been working secretly with Mazikeen, because he wants to rid himself of his curse of roaming the earth forever. So it's really cool and really interesting to see all these biblical characters and how they interplay with Lucifer on the TV show, and the dynamic of what they have, and someone always calling him dad and just being upset, and it's just really funny. Like I said, he definitely, this show is about a guy who has daddy issues, who's very intelligent and articulate and charismatic, and who is just outright rebellious for the sake of being rebellious. So, and he's becoming, and when you watch the TV show, you see that he's becoming more and more of a human being. He's vulnerable. He finds out that when he's with Chloe Decker and if people shoot him, that those wounds actually stick. And it only happens when he's with her. So he finds out that he's becoming vulnerable when he's with her. So of course that freaks him out, because he's Lucifer. He's always in control, especially of his feelings. So he feels like, so he doesn't know how to completely process all that. So yeah, he gets jealous of Cain and Chloe's relationship. They eventually do solve the murder mystery within this episode. And what happens is that Chloe and Cain, or Lieutenant Pierce as she knows him, are getting really close. He spent a lot of time with her, and he comes up to her home, and she's ready to introduce him to her daughter, and she's just about to tell him that she loves him, when Cain realizes, because Cain was just like, I'm just doing this for me. I want to die. If I have to use this woman to do it, I will. And then she gets ready to tell him that she's in love with him, and he sees that Chloe's very pure. She's a very pure person, very sweet, very nice, very hardworking. He stops her from saying it, because he knows that if she says, I love you, that his mark will probably disappear. He stops her and he says, I can't do this anymore. So you find out basically that, he's falling in love with her. So she's upset when he leaves, because she's like, it was something I said or did. He just walks off. Lucifer comes over to see Chloe because he's worried about her. And, Trixie opens up the door, and she points to the couch where her mom is, and you see her over there sitting. they're just looking upset and sad. Lucifer knows it was because of Cain, so he goes over to confront Cain, kicks down Cain's door, and he's like, how dare you hurt her? Why? And Cain is like, look, I was this close. He said, I was just this close to having what I want. He said, and I realized I couldn't do that to her. I just couldn't. And Lucifer looks, because Lucifer kicks his door down, and he punches him, and Cain goes flying against his apartment, with the window or wall. He's like, I deserve it. And he says that to him, that, I just couldn't do that to her. And at that moment, when you're watching the TV show, you realize that Cain has fallen in love with Chloe. Lucifer's already in love with her. He just doesn't want to admit it to himself. And he's scared of what that will do to him in his life, because he's already changing and becoming more of a considerate person. So it's really fascinating. So the episode ends with Lucifer looking down at Cain in his right arm, and he says, your mark has disappeared. And and Cain looks up and that's the end of the episode. So looking forward to seeing what the next episode brings. Are they going to because Master King's deal with Cain was that once the mark was gone, that he's going to have her kill him. So she's like, how do you want me to do it? Lots of pain, no pain. He's like, I had enough pain in my life, no pain. She's like, oh, okay. Because, she's this great bounty hunter / assassin. She's a weapons expert. So really good with the knife. But yeah, the episode ends that way, with the mark being removed from Cain because he learned how to love, apparently. So it's going to be interesting to see if his character stays or if he does get killed off. But yeah, check that show out. It's a great comedy. It's very interesting, very fascinating. It's a very fresh and original take on the Prince of Darkness. So, and we'll be back. We'll talk about Black Lightning after this break.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Hello, welcome back, folks. You're listening to GSMC, Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. I'm your host, Keith. We just finished talking about the television show Lucifer, which airs on Fox Network. And now we're going to talk about Black Lightning, new superhero, the newest superhero added to the CW network. And the season finale was last night. Great show. It's a show about an American superhero. This series was developed by Salim Akil, and it's based on the DC Comics character named Black Lightning, who was created by Tony Isabella. So, and it stars Cress Williams, as Jefferson Pierce, who is Black Lightning, alongside China Ann McClain, Nafessa Williams, Christine Adams, Marvin Jones III, Damon Gumpton, and James Remar. So, the basic premise of this show is that Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning, is the high school principal who's a retired superhero. He stopped being Black Lightning for 9 years. He lives in a small town called Freeland. So he stopped doing this after the effects he saw that they had on his family. He has 2 daughters. But, there's a local gang in Freeland called the 100. And they're up to all kinds of crime and corruption, selling drugs and selling this new drug called Green Light that gets people really jacked up and gives them superhuman strength and makes them kind of go crazy. So when Jefferson Pierce sees that this is going on, he decides to bring Black Lightning back. One of the reasons why is because a guy from a drug gang runs into Jefferson's younger daughter at a nightclub, Jennifer, China Ann, and she blows him off, and then he decides to take it upon himself to go to her school because his daughter Jennifer and his older daughter, his daughter Jennifer goes to school there, and his older daughter Anessa teaches there. So at the school that he's the principal of. So this gang member decides to come to the school and, give problems to Anessa and to Jennifer, and he kidnaps both of them. So when that happens, Jefferson's ex-wife, who he's still in love with, she's like, go get our girls. Her name on the show is Lynn Stewart, played by actress Christina Adams. She's a neuroscientist at Bowman College within the show. So that's when Jefferson decides to become Black Lightning again. James Remar plays Peter Gamby, basically his mentor and is like his surrogate father. He's like his oldest friend. He's the one who redesigned Jefferson's suit, and he was with Jefferson back in the day when Jefferson was Black Lightning, 9 years earlier. So the main villain on this show, he's really good. His name is Tobias Whale, played by Marvin Cronin Jones III. He's a former politician who rose to the ranks of local government, and he did that through corruption. And he also is the man responsible for killing Jefferson's father when Jefferson was a teenager. His father's name was Alvin. He was a reporter. Tobias Whale killed him in front of Jefferson, but he didn't know Jefferson was there. At the time, he was hiding when he saw it happen. So we find out when the series first starts that there was this epic battle between Black Lightning and Tobias Whale, and Tobias was everyone thought that Tobias was dead, and then Tobias thought that Black Lightning was dead. So you find out throughout this first season that ended, that, like I said before, this green light drug, is infiltrating the streets, and the kids are taking it and getting hooked on it. It's having bad side effects. Like I said, some kids get really hyped up and strong and animated, and people are dying from it. So Black Lightning and Gamby do their best to try to combat this and take down these gangs. So Anessa, Jefferson's oldest child, finds out through a chain of events that she has powers. And her name on the show is Thunder. So she can, when she takes a deep breath, and she has superhuman strength when she does that. So she calls herself Thunder. She takes a deep breath, and if she stomps on the ground, the whole ground will shake, or she can pick up things. She's really strong. So she winds up going out in Freeland and trying to help make a difference in a town to help people. And before she even got her powers, she was always arguing with her father about how things have not gotten better, they've gotten worse, and the police have been ineffective in getting rid of this gang, and that we have to mobilize and strike and do things and be more assertive and aggressive, and making sure that people have their rights and are not being violated within the community. So basically, Jefferson, who's the principal now, who's all about educating his kids in the high school and making sure that all the high school students have the best education possible by any means necessary, he'll say. He has a little slogan, and he uses that term in that endearing type of way. He is kind of like the Martin to her Malcolm. So, and Jefferson's ex-wife, who he's still in love with, Lynn Stewart, she's like, I don't want you being Black Lightning, but when you went and saved our daughters, I had no problem with it. She felt conflicted because she feels like, there were times where he would come home all beaten up and bruised, like almost almost close to death, and she felt like she couldn't deal with that stress anymore. That's why they got divorced. But now she finds out eventually that her older daughter has powers that she inherited from her dad. So she's a metahuman. And then later on throughout the story, Jennifer, the younger daughter, she winds up having the power of lightning like her dad, but even more so. She can generate the power and store it. So, the season finale is really cool because there's a evil agent Proctor who conducted the experiment by putting Greenland on, throughout the streets, trying to mobilize the people of Freeland. And a lot of kids developed superpowers. So Proctor and his government agency took all the kids, they kidnapped them and hid them and put them in suspended animation. And now some of the kids are dying, and Proctor's trying to get metahuman's DNA who's stable so he can put that and inject all the missing teenagers that he has kidnapped, and frozen, so he can inject those kids so they can be stabilized, so they can use them for their own metahuman army. So it gets really good. Oh, and by the way, Tobias Whale, the bad guy, the former politician who killed Jefferson Pierce's father, he's this he's an albino black man, and his presence is very strong. He's great on the show. He's a great bad guy. One of the best I've seen on television in a long time. Yeah, it's really good. The show is great. There's other things that happen within this TV series. I like how the main character focuses on education and trying to make his community better. And then through his older daughter realizes, okay, I have a responsibility. The Black Lightning can't go away anymore. I have to make sure that people are safe, and I have to train my daughter so she's going to do well, and her and I can be a team, and I got her back and she's got my back. So you wind up getting like your first superhero family on television. Oh, and by the way, so Anissa, she's a lesbian, so he's got two daughters. One is gay and one is not. So it was interesting in the first episode of the show when Jefferson and Lynn talked about their daughter and talked about her girlfriend. It was interesting to see that their conversation was just about, they laughed because they didn't know her name. They weren't tripping on her being, gay or at all. It was just about, they didn't know the girl's name. So, and that, they were wondering if Anissa was not spending enough time with her girlfriend, and so, because her mother's like, well, if you're not really that into her, what are you doing? So the show, it's got a lot of things going for it. It's really cool. I like it a lot. It's got me wanting to read the old school comic book. But yeah, this was a comic from back in the day on DC. And I remember the last version of the comic I remember that he had two daughters. I didn't know that both of them wound up having powers. But yeah, they do. So like I said, this is the first superhero family on television. And it's really cool to see how they work together and to see how they try to change the community and for the better. And of course, there's a police officer who's a lieutenant or captain, who's Jefferson Pierce, one of his closest friends, who doesn't know that Jefferson's Black Lightning, but has been secretly working with Black Lightning for a while now. But whenever he's in public, he always talks about how vigilantism is wrong. But there's a private phone that he uses to talk to Black Lightning through. So it's just, the dynamics of the show are really good. So, but I definitely recommend to watch it. I watch all the CW superhero shows: Flash, Arrow, DC's Legends of Tomorrow or Today, and Black Lightning. They're all, and Supergirl. So I watch them all. So I definitely encourage you guys to check out the show. The first season was really good. It's still on, but yeah, the season finale was very good. The whole family came together, and the conflict that was involved because Jennifer got her powers and she wanted to be normal. She didn't want to have power. She didn't want to be a superhero like her sister or her dad. It took her a while to process the fact that her dad was Black Lightning, because for the longest time the girls didn't know. So, and there's an interesting way how Jefferson found out that his daughter was Thunder. They had a fight. Black Lightning fought Thunder, and he didn't know that he was fighting his own daughter. So it was, yeah. So, but that all got worked out. But it's a really good show, and James Remar as the mentor, and basically like the the genius sidekick who's helping Jefferson on his fight in his crusade for truth and justice in the American way. He's great. James Remar he also played Dex's dad on the TV series Dex from Showtime. And people don't realize one of his earliest roles, he was the bad guy, one of the bad guys in Eddie Murphy's 48 Hours. That's how far back he goes, and he's come a long way. But he's great on the show. The show's great. I'm looking forward to the second season. I'm loving it. I was apprehensive about them doing the Black Lightning show, but I'm glad that DC did. I like it a lot. But like I said, I watch all the DC shows. But definitely encourage you to check it out. We got Black Panther in the movie theater, and you have Black Lightning on television, and so much more. Folks, I apologize. I did not get a chance to talk to you about Bosch, but don't worry. Next week, in the television podcast, we will talk about Amazon Prime and Bosch and the different TV series they have. We discuss stuff on Netflix. This streaming with Amazon Prime, Netflix, and Hulu, it's the future. Very happy. I look forward to talking to you all about that. But I promise you, we will talk about Bosch next week, because by then I will have finished the new 4th season. So I'm excited. I'm binging on it right now. So we'll talk about Bosch next week and some other great TV for you to check out. This is Keith. You've been listening to Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast. Thanks again, people of Earth and of the known universe. Love you all. Appreciate you for listening, and to see you somewhere out in space.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.